All right, folks, this is Brandon Harrington. Don't be too confused. You are listening to Surviving the Music Industry, but I got something pretty rad to tell you. We just joined the American Songwriter Podcast Network. I'm pretty stoked about joining this network along with some pretty awesome other podcasts. Be sure to go to americansongwriter.com/podcast. Check out some of their shiz. All right, I did it. Let's do it. This is Surviving the Music Industry.
I didn't think about how that sounded.
Heyo, all you people out there, you're wrestling with life, trying to figure out what this thing is. Well, first of all, this is Surviving the Music Industry, and you're listening to the chosen voice cult leader that you choose to follow. Welcome, I'm Brandon Harrington. This is my podcast where you get to listen to hear me gripe and complain about what's going on in my life in the music industry, or just even pursuing this creative art field that only 1% kind of gets to do their thing, and I get to talk to pretty rad people along the way. This episode is definitely no different. This is a long time coming. Huge fan, always known who this guy is, and I finally nabbed him. I swindled his publicist to kind of do this, Jim Lauderdale. I'm super authentically happy about this situation. And it's hard for me to be authentically happy because, you know, we're in a world of people wanting optimism and hope, and that's not me, and it's such a hard thing to find and then kind of deal with. I blame it on my Baptist upbringing, but this is I'm authentically happy that this happened. Got to know Jim. I've met Jim before. We tried to record, so some of you maybe even know I produced some other shows. I did this thing for Zach Brown, and Jim got to be part of that. But then the old Rona kind of got Zach Brown's bank account sick, kind of took out his bank account, had to cancel that podcast. But I got to know Jim through that, and also I said, hey man, come hang out. At least we can, maybe laugh and waste some time. And that's what we did. I'll get to that in a second. But I hope everybody's doing safe. Hope everybody is doing the thing that they love. Hope everybody is, spreading at least whatever this level of optimism and love that they have in their head of what that is to other people in humanity. I have to fully admit, I'm not in a great headspace, actually, like doing this part of the show because, so the wife and the kid are in Arkansas. And some of you kind of understand my feelings about my home state, and that's why I sometimes claim Texas, because at least I was born in Texas. But I had this, I don't know, I have memories of Arkansas, but I just don't have, I never fit in. Can I just say that? I've just never fit in Arkansas. The headspace, the creativity, it was just a place that I was just a foreign alien in. And I knew that my entire life. And so I begrudgingly really just call Arkansas home because of that, because it just honestly didn't feel like home a lot of times. But all that being said, my wife, she is from Arkansas. So they've been gone a little while. And I don't know where you folks kind of line up along the conspiracy theorists around the Rona. For me, it's a pretty serious thing. I mean, you talk to a nurse or somebody in the medical field one time, they'll tell you the shit goes down for real. I mean, it's not the flat earthers are telling the truth here, even though they're telling the truth about flat earth. But the thing is that this Rona situation is real, and there's a shit ton of conspiracy theories around the corona. With this age of information and not in having just drowning myself in information, it's over cumbersome of what to believe and what not to believe. But I do know at least the coronavirus, COVID-19, is a real thing, all right? Because we just had a freaking scare about it in our own family. And just people in Arkansas, they just kind of feel like that it's just a part of the conspiracy theory, and people are just kind of frolicking and hunting and fishing and doing what Arkansans do. I don't have anything against the people of Arkansas. I just have something against people that are just dumbasses, okay? That's my only issue. That's my problem. So the wife and kid, they are with her family, my in-laws, and it's kind of their vacation, but, it's kind of been the safe zone. But somebody wasn't smart about it, It got around my family, which we were smart about it, but then they became close in contact with COVID-19. Do they have COVID-19? I don't know. It's been a few, I think it's been like 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 days, something like that. And they give 14 days to say, oh, you have it or you don't. All right, so we're close to the end of that threshold of knowing if I have a family on the other side. So not in a great headspace, this guy, as of right now. But seriously, like whatever the situation is, whatever this thing is, take care of yourself. You know, you can only do so much, you personally. But, you know, put on the mask, wash your hands for 20 seconds. I mean, you should have been doing that in the first place, right? Most of you don't. I know. I've shared bathrooms with you people. I know who walks out. As soon as you walk in, I can nail, all right, this guy's not a hand washer. I know it every single time. I even know some ladies. When they're coming out of the bathroom, I just know, nope, not sanitized. I just know it. I just know it. It's a gut feeling, gut reaction. I know what it is. But people, take care of yourself. Because if you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of other people. At least with this whole COVID-19 situation. But it's fucking up a lot of shit, right? Because it's the thing of some of my friends can't go back on the road. We can't get together with co-writes. This was going to be my year of co-writing, and we can't do it because of you people. You people aren't taking this thing serious enough. I think that might be it for me. I'm just saying. I might have to cash my chips, cash my cards, turn them in, and just say, you know, this is all I can do to kind of spread the good word, all right? But I don't know. I like to know how serious are you guys with this thing? Get in touch with us at Unofficial Brandon, Instagram, TikTok, of course, if you want to be entertained. And then we got some stuff at SMI Podcast, as well as some of those socials. But you can always go to smipodcast.com. We've got past episodes and everything right up there, all our past stuff. I don't know what episode number this is with Jim Lauderdale. 167? I think that sounds right. Something like that. But tons of episodes you guys can go back and listen to. I think the most important thing is that I got to hang out with Jim Lauderdale. Was I fulfilled? No, not really. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know what he knew walking into this. So typically you guys kind of know this, that, you know, we sit down and we love to talk about your life and how like the music kind of intertwines in that, because the past reflects the music kind of situation. And that's not what we got today, because I was hoping that we would talk about the King of Broken Hearts, Sidewalk Ends, him writing with all the awesome badasseries that he's written with or written for. I mean, everything from George Strait, the Dixie Chicks, Patty Loveless, Leanne Womack, Blake Shelton, Solomon Burke, Vince Gill. I mean, tons of songs. He's got 30 plus records and albums. The guy is not done yet. And we barely scratch the surface. I'm just mildly disappointed, but at the same time, we're going to talk again. Because you know what? The guy makes awesome stuff all the time. He never stops. He's like the country Bob Dylan. He just never stops. Whatever that means. I don't even know what that means. But I don't know. Hepatitis C. He just keeps going, and it never stops. And there's no medicine for it. Is there medicine for hepatitis? I don't know. But anyway, I never had it. So what do I know? Okay. But I was super excited to talk to Jim and to really go down that road of everything. Growing up in North Carolina, talking about bluegrass, folk music, moving to LA in the 80s, you know, talking about his debut record, you know, anywhere from a Point of No Return, Planet of Love. And we did kind of touch on it a little bit, but old Jim had a lot to say, especially about everything that he's got going on in the present. You know what? People want to live in the present, especially they don't want to keep revisiting the past. Plus, there's even a movie for Jim Lauderdale, the King of Broken Hearts movie. I watched it the night before. I loved it. So there's a bunch of stuff, and maybe that was just it. He just didn't want to keep talking, rehashing the past, kind of revisit some internal feelings. And you guys also know that's kind of what this thing is too. But either way, we got into it. We got in a rad conversation. He told some pretty rad dad jokes. I got to throw in some in there as well. But we got to it, all right? And I appreciate and I love whatever this is, this conversation I had with Jim. And I know in the future there will be more. But he's promoting When Carolina Comes Home Again. He's from North Carolina. And so kind of revisiting this thing and him talking about it, he has a deep appreciation for his home state. So I authentically love hearing people talk about things that they're passionate about and the things that they love. So for Jim, on this day, on this phoner, still doing phoners, COVID, that he was just in this headspace. And kind of went for it, and we went from there. But you know what? Like I said, we did get some golden nuggets, some gems in there. He had some words of wisdom. He did his thing. Either way, I'm appreciative. I'm not going to be this ungrateful jerk for Jim Lauderdale because we're going to meet again, and it's going to be awesome. But he's this highly regarded songwriter in the community and outside. And if you don't know Jim Lauderdale, you got to at least Google it or at least get a piece of this conversation to understand who he is. But like I said, from the songwriters, the songs he has, his output of 30-plus records, the guy is not done. I'm excited about the future. Right now, the record is When Carolina Comes Home Again. Everything about Jim Lauderdale that I know of that you can go visit is JimLauderdaleStore.com. And then give him a follow at Jim Lauderdale Music on those socials, especially Instagram. Stays pretty active on the social media. Pretty proud of him. Great job, Jim. Hope to see you in Phase 4, Jim. Hope things are well. Everybody go by, swing by, say, hey, thanks for the conversation. It was awesome. Go check out his new record, new music. There's going to be new music in the future, and that's what I'm excited about. And hope you guys dig into this.
I was just listening to Ruthie Collins.
Oh, okay.
And Sarah Seskin. Yeah, really enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for what you're doing.
Oh,
it's good.
Are you kidding? Yeah, this is like a no-brainer for me because we tried to do it. I don't know, maybe when was that? It was probably the record before this one.
From Another World or Time Flies.
Yeah, it would have been From Another World, but I don't think it just happened for some reason. Maybe timing of it. That's just how it works. But I'm glad you're here.
Brandon,
we're doing it.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to ask me a question right now. Is what do you think has been the biggest impediment in your career? If you can ask me that right now.
Okay. Jim, what's been the...
Timing.
Oh, okay. And this is another thing I'm learning about you too, is like, I never know when you're joking. Like, you get me. You get my gut. Like, I don't know if it's, okay, is Jim going to ask me, like, to do something seriously? Or where is this going to go? This is another point in case you got my gut.
I do realize more and more that I joke around a lot. And I've had people in my life say that. You know, they go, I can't tell whether you're kidding or not. And then those times when I'm really serious or really mad or upset or something, they laugh. And I say, I'm not kidding. And then they laugh more. So I've created a...
Oh, yeah. I have that same problem, too. I kind of never take anything too seriously. And then when I try to take something serious, it's like, well, Brandon's not serious. There's no way he wants to get paid extra money for this extra content. Right. It's a joke.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
By the way, there's so many... I'd much rather have Pandora than pandemic right now. I mean, that's the 10 that I prefer.
Jim, that's like the best dad joke I might have heard through this whole situation. And you're not even a dad.
Hey, well, listen, get ready. This is just the beginning, John. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
You know, I'll tell you what, I was trying to think of things during this crazy time of how am I going to, you know, make a living doing this. And so definitely the smuggling of the endangered species business I had on the side, that's out.
You're saying you had to run with Joe Exotic? Is that the situation?
You know,
you're the Tiger Prince.
I had been asked to write for, produce him. Now that's not going to be able to happen. You know, it's just, hey, I've got a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, I didn't know the Tiger King was a fan of King of Broken Hearts. Is that?
That's good.
I didn't know if that was a thing. Oh,
that's very good.
Jim, you seem like in good spirits, considering. Where are you calling from right now?
Here in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, like everybody else, I mean, this has really been such a intense thing, you know, for everybody. And I think when this first started going down, I actually have kind of a depressive nature. And so when this kind of, you know, the discussions of all this were coming out and the warnings, I definitely kind of looked at the worst case scenario and kind of in my way just kind of shut down. And I feel like, and one thing about music that is so good, because I even kind of shut that out in a lot of ways. And everything has taken me a really long time to do. And I've been, like, luckily, for instance, as an example, if I was to have prepared this, to record it, to have answered some questions or come up with my own or put a playlist together, I would be several weeks late, which I have been on some things I've been asked to do. And everything just seems to be harder. I am, in all seriousness, I am a Luddite, but I'm learning little things, you know, this stuff you got to shoot of yourself, you know, playing a song or whatnot. So that's embarrassing, but I'm slowly learning that, and that's good to know this.
Yeah,
but they're dragging me kicking and screaming.
Yeah, right.
21st century, but the one thing, but my point of this is, because I know that despair has really been so prevalent to all of us, and is music, even though I've hardly been playing, but I'm kind of now, it was like I shut down to kind of pace myself and slowly get back into things. Not that, you know, who knows what the swing of things is. That's all changed. But I was asked to be part of a podcast about the Working Man's Dead album. And so I listened again to stuff, and hearing the music that the Grateful Dead did before that, during that time, the few years afterwards, just kind of trying to verbalize that stuff instead of just feeling it, you know. It was an interesting process, and I had written a lot with Robert Hunter, and have really been grieving his passing. And he died last September, and that was good to really delve into his solo stuff as well. And and then playing a little bit and starting to play and kind of working on my guitar chops more, because I've never taken the time to really go back to some of the basics. And I think there's little things that we all can do. And it's like, I was listening to your podcast with Ruthie Collins, and she was talking about how she hasn't been doing these things like learning this or that or accomplishing this or that. And I certainly haven't. And,
I haven't either.
I think the thing is, and because I think that we psychologically and mentally, this is so heavy that we're just all coping with this in our own unique individual way. And I went to a counselor several years ago who was telling me that in a book he had read about a Holocaust survivor, that the thing that when he was asked what got him through was, he said, hope. And even though people his age, younger, slightly older, were dying, whatever, that he felt that was the thing that got him through. And that really stuck with me. And that's a daily kind of thing for me to try to keep in mind, because I certainly don't have much of it most of the time. But then I guess occasionally I have those moments of clarity and hope and peace, before I hear more about what's going on. I think it is really important for everybody to be informed, because eventually you're going to be, you have to know what's going on. And I feel like maybe pacing yourself some ways with the news is good. I think I oversaturated myself for a while, and a lot of it was something I'd heard the last hour or whatnot. But anyway, I guess that it's good to be informed, but not over.
Yeah.
Not too much. But hey, that's a good segue to talking about my latest album.
Let's talk about North Carolina and bluegrass.
Right, because it's funny. I've heard Emmylou Harris quote Townes Van Zandt many times and say there's two kinds of music. There's the blues and there's zippity doo dah. Well, let's talk a little bit about zippity doo dah.
Let's get to the zippity doo dah right now. Yeah. Oh, Joe. Okay, well, it's good to hear that things seem to really be in a hopeful state of mind in your head right now, and that's
good.
Let's
not go that. Hey, let's not go that.
Let's retract everything that just happened.
Let's just say sometimes it's better to laugh than cry.
Oh, 100%.
And sometimes it's, I certainly do not have any answers for, kind of philosophical answer. But I will say that what I'm gonna try to do is have hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I'm certainly unsuccessful at it most of the time, but this weird, this existential blanket haze of despair and hope is, we got to just hang on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, Brandon, that was all the time I've got. I'm sorry we didn't have time to talk about any music.
Yeah, there's a piece of me that's kind of like, I bet he's a little bit serious right now. This is it. No, Jim, we're not done at all. You might as well get comfortable, because I feel like for your life and legacy and what we're about to do, like, we're here all day, man. So I hope you made some non-essential trips here recently to get all that you need to do this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Dude, it's painfully obvious. I know you're from Carolina, and I could learn that just from listening to the music. But tell me, basically, like, for you, like, what are the Carolinas for you? It's always interesting, like, when I know artists and writers like yourself that have, like, this high esteem for home, and for you it's the Carolinas, like, what that means to them. So I just want you to tell me about the Carolinas and, like, what that means to you, and what does even home life mean to you?
I will. Now, before I get into that, where let me flip the tables for a second just to ask, where is home to you? Where was that?
Yeah, I'm from East Texas, Southern Arkansas. Texarkana is the biggest landmark around.
Okay. Well, the Carolinas, and also let me backtrack and give you a little. This can be like a little songwriting stuff. But as far as you're saying, you don't learn. Well, of course, only write about what is you want to and you feel like. Now, do you ever co-write?
Yeah, I've took about a year.
Was that an or a
It's a yes and no. It's a yes and no, because I took about a year off from co-writes to kind of figure out, hey, what do I have? What can I actually bring to a table? And I said, 2020 is my year. I'm going to start doing some co-writes. I'm going to start booking some stuff. And nothing's happened. So here we are.
Well, it's I have actually, and I've been so bad just about getting back to people, which I've got to do, but it's a few people have reached out and said, hey, would you like to co-write kind of, over some of these new ways you kids can do. And I haven't responded. I just haven't been in the mood to do it, but maybe sometime I will, because I like to co-write, but I think that it's, you're right. I never co-wrote for years and years and years and years until, I guess, the late 80s. And I started co-writing with John Leventhal, and that was really, really a wonderful time for me, and really, just did so many things for me musically and professionally and personally, just to do that. When it works, it's really great. And then through the years, I've been very fortunate and co-wrote with a lot of people I really admired and enjoyed. And there is an art to it. I think for people to learn or process, and there are it's when I say there's an art to it, there is I think an etiquette or a process or whatever that works, and things that don't work. And I certainly have had my share of co-writes where it was either the other person didn't really like any of my ideas at all. I was trying to throw out, and they just kind of wanted to dominate it. And then the song didn't get finished. And there were times when I thought, oh gosh, I just want to get through this. And there were times when you end up just talking more than co-writing, and which I with some co-writers, like with the late Frank Dicus or Robert Hunter, sometimes they would just give me lyrics, and then melody would come to. There's that kind of co-writing, or me giving a melody to somebody and put lyrics, but I think the kind of 50-50 thing where you're both finishing each other's melodies or sentences. A lot of that for me comes from not bringing anything in at that time, but just through a conversation with that person about anything. Then a lot of times they'll say something which will really click with me, and and sometimes a melody will also come up simultaneously, and I go, hey, hold on for a second, you just said blah, 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 and then I sing this little thing, and then we go from there. And I like it like that. I like a spontaneous kind of thing. But getting back to what you're saying about taking time off from co-writing, I think, and especially in Nashville, because this is the writing capital of the world, is that it's also good after co-writing a lot and having that a habit to challenge yourself to write alone. And I go through phases of that. I think with co-writing, I think that when you co-write sometimes with somebody, you can come up with something you never would have on your own. And so anyway, hey, but that and $20 will buy you 45 minutes of internet connection on an airplane.
Yeah, don't get a drink. You got a ticket for that. So yeah, just pay for the internet. Set up a co-write on the airplane.
Yeah. But
Man,
anyway,
yeah.
So now I'm getting back, and I wasn't trying to see if I was at a press conference trying to put a twist on a question, with your question being, tell me about Carolina.
Yeah, right.
That would have been my non-answer. But getting back to your question, Carolina.
I can see your publicist just going, oh, hey, Chip, waving their hands.
I know. And I'll say this, is that by now, if your listeners, if they've been stressed and tense and uptight and had a hard time sleeping, if any of them are still awake after this, you go back and start at the beginning again, or use this every night if you're having a hard time falling asleep. But the other thing is, if you're still awake, you've been drinking too much coffee. So, be aware of that. But getting back to your question, the Carolinas, that was a great place to grow up, and I was very lucky to have been in the places where I was. Troutman, North Carolina. It was like Mayberry to me in my head. Watching Andy Griffith and Charlotte, North Carolina, and then a small town in South Carolina called Due West, and where Erskine College was, where my dad was working, and then Chapel Hill, North Carolina, finishing high school at Carolina Friends School, and then the North Carolina School of the Arts in Winston-Salem for college, and now going back to Flat Rock, North Carolina, up in the mountains near Hendersonville and Asheville. And so I think for me, the thing about home in Carolina is that it's a thing of driving through certain areas, like when I drive by Troutman or Statesville, it's a feeling I get. It just evokes memories and feelings, and and same, with Chapel Hill or Winston-Salem or Flat Rock, Due West. There's each place, I guess, where you've lived and spent any time at all, you go to a different place kind of inside by being there.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And I had good memories from those places. And so with this, now here's a segue for you.
Mm-hmm.
So Brandon, with this record I've got now called When Carolina Comes Home Again, I wanted to, and have you been to Merle Fest, by the way?
I haven't. No, I get invited every year, but I kind of ghost the situation because for what I do, it's just kind of like a wasted press thing on me. So, but I really should go. But I've heard it's awesome.
You know what? I'll tell you what, Brandon. Let's turn that smile right side up, okay? And let's not a wasted press opportunity. Let's put a little.
No, I just mean like
let's
on
think
me.
of it as a newfound music opportunity.
Oh, I agree. But it would be like somebody else could use that press. Like they could do that. Like for what I do to sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation, like with gnarly people, like it's not going to be at a festival. And so,
right.
That's why I haven't gone.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, the thing is that a lot of times at festivals, interviews, it's best if they're really short, because the performers are, have a lot on their minds, and scheduling things, and
that's why I wait for pandemics to talk to somebody like you. You got nothing but time.
Exactly. Yeah, you was talking about the timing was off for last year's record.
Yeah,
see, that changed. That changed. So now I've got all the time I've got about.
All right, so Carolina.
So anyway, but getting back to Merle Fest.
Oh, okay, yeah.
North Carolina, and it's this great festival, and I was just joined thousands of people in being sad that we couldn't go this year, because there's a thing too, talking about memory, is that when I go there, I mean, it's intense because it's so big and there's so many different bands going on at the same time. You see so many people, and there's a friend of mine sent me a text after I had said that I missed seeing her and her husband there at the festival. They volunteered, and she said, and they were playing past, I think it was 2012. So they were streaming a lot of stuff from Wildfest, and so people were commenting. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's just really great. And she said, Francesca said, it was great to hear that music, but I really missed the connectivity with people. And that really dawned on me when she said that. It's like, that was kind of a missing word when I get asked about certain things about music. is it's that connectivity with your fellow, with the audience, with your fellow musicians, with with that, and the connectivity that the audience has with each other and with you. And I think that with bands like the Grateful Dead, Fish, certain Dawn of the Buffalo, where people go back time and time again to hear that favorite band of theirs. And music is definitely at the forefront, but it's also this very intricate connectivity that you have with people as well as the music. Now, how's that for another non-answer to your question about Carolina? No, I'm kidding. But
you're really taking advantage of this no editing thing that we do.
Right, exactly. But what I was going to say, this does segue back to the record, but there's a great singer-songwriter activist named Cy Kahn, Sikahn, from Charlotte, North Carolina. And he had been talking to me for several years. He's really prolific, and when we had said, we should do something sometime, and then he would write 15 or 20 lyrics, about some certain theme and give them to me.
Just quick idea.
Notebook okay. No, he would have these lyrics.
Oh, okay.
And later, we just kind of casually say something. Let's So we mentioned, I had felt bad because I get so busy and I hadn't been able to really dig in to some of these things. And then I would have these other projects that would come along that I would put everything into as far as my records. And so one time at Millfest, I said a few years ago, I said, you know what, how about this? Why don't we write a record together about Carolina, different things, and have different bands from Carolina be on it. So it's because I thought I've got so many records coming out that I'm working on that it shouldn't be one of my records, So he then immediately got to work and sent me a ton of stuff. We thought about different bands. So in other words, different bands, say the Avett Brothers or something like that, Nipsaw or whoever, just there's a ton of really good bands that live in North Carolina. And I was thinking about double record. I thought, gosh, this could be a double album. But it seemed when I proposed that idea to my record company, who's in North Carolina, by the way, called Yep Rock.
Oh, yeah.
And they just thought it might be too much, that it was a big undertaking. And so I kind of set it aside. And then Cy mentioned to me that it was the year of music in North Carolina. And I oftentimes will book studio time and the musicians, but not know really what I've got to do. And, but it kind of gives me some structure to work towards. And so...
kind of laid out a little bit of a blueprint.
Yes,
a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Well, in some way. And a lot of times it depends on the musician side. get. And then I write for that situation in a way, knowing kind of what it's going to sound like. And then the music starts coming out. And so I booked some time at Echo Mountain Studios in Asheville and got a great bunch of diverse players, bluegrass players. And I thought, there's this song that John Oates and I wrote several years ago. Gosh, it must have been about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was his. I tweaked the title some, but then John Oates really ran with it, and I helped him. But it's called "When Carolina Comes Home Again," and his roots are really in folk music, and so it was kind of, it was this minor key, mid-tempo thing, and but it really hit home to me. It really resonated with me. And but it didn't really fit on anything I was recording. And so I thought, look, if I'm going to do an album of stuff, maybe I'll do my own album about North Carolina stuff and get North Carolina guys, but this has got to be the title track. And one thing that Cy Khan had sent me a lyric was called Kakalaki. And so I thought, well, look, this would be perfect to be on the record. So we recorded that day as well. And I did, since I had the musicians there, I did one more song, but just the music. I didn't have any lyrics. And then I booked some more time and got various North Carolina bands to come in. And so like Cane Mill Road, which was some young folks I'd first seen at Merlefest, and then IBMA. IBMA is the big bluegrass convention there in Raleigh. And it used to be here in Nashville, and Nashville just didn't really need it. They had some.
Not where the money's at, Jim.
But Raleigh really went all out, and it's the perfect home for it. And there was a young fellow, 17-year-old guitar wizard named Presley Barker, and there's a group who plays in the Doc Watson style. And John Stickley and Lindsay Pruitt. Lindsay's the fiddle player with John Stickley Trio, and so I got them on a song, and songs from the Road Band and Balsam Range and Steep Canyon Rangers and Town Mountain, and that pretty much rounds up the folks. And I wasn't really sure as I was going along, like I would book one or two of these bands a day for a song or two each time, and sometimes I wouldn't really know in advance what I was going to do with them. There was a song with Logan Ledger. He's a great artist. You ought to have him on the show sometime. And he lives here in Nashville, and we'd written several things, and he has his roots in bluegrass, and so there was a gospel thing. I thought, now this would be great for the Steep Canyon Rangers. And then the day of the session, I finished a song with Graham Sharp, the banjo player, and we wrote that down. A lot of times it's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting to do stuff the day before, that morning, or while you're there.
Oh, right.
And there was a song that I had a couple of songs that I'd written with Charles Humphrey III, the bass player from Songs from the Road Band. And so we were recording those, and Charles on his phone had a Grateful Dead case for it, and somebody else had a Grateful Dead T-shirt on, and I thought, there's a lyric that I've been trying to finish for several years that Robert Hunter had given me. I said, maybe this is an omen here. So I had started some different melodies, and they patiently waited for half an hour or so, and I finished off this melody, and we laid down this song called Has a Sign. And so that was very meaningful to me, and kind of met the first, when I saw the Grateful Dead, it was 1973 in Dirt at Duke University, and I got turned on to them in North Carolina. So there's these different tie-ins and things with stuff, and there's a wonderful songwriter, Sarah Duguay, who's from Louisiana.
Yeah.
But we wrote a song that sounded like a ballad, that kind of like an old English or folk ballad or something Doc Watson would do, and so I recorded that with John Stickley and Lindsey Krause, and anyway, that's kind of the gist of that album. Bluegrass music, I was mentioning, as a kid, hearing all this great rock and pop stuff, and then when I discovered bluegrass when I was a teenager, it really, I just really loved it and dove into it and played the banjo for several years, and it was kind of my main thing, what I wanted.
Yeah, that's what you kind of started on.
Yeah, and so I started coming back to it later after I guess I was 40 something when I did. I'd done a record that never got released with Roland White in Nashville when I was 22, and it never got released, and we lost it. Then
was it the Point of No Return? Was that album?
No, that was a record on Epic Records. That when I finally, so that record I did with Roland in 1979.
Okay.
I couldn't get a deal for it, and I thought that was my ticket. When I was 22, I thought, this is it. I made it. I've recorded with one of my heroes. I'll start doing bluegrass. Eventually, I'll do country, and then whatever comes down the line. But it didn't happen. And then a record was supposed to come out in 1988 that I did with Pete Anderson. And kind of a Buck-Owens style, Bakersfield style country record, and that didn't come out. And then I'd begun writing with John Leventhal, and eventually a record a couple of years later in 1991 came out on Warner Brothers Reprise, called Planet of Love.
And that's the record, Jim. That's the album that did it.
Well, that is what, commercially, and I had wanted things to turn out to where, at that time, it was, you do a record and have videos and sell a lot of records and do big tours and all that, but it just didn't happen. I just didn't, for whatever reason. I don't think it was because of the music. I think the music was there, but I think it was either just image-wise or my readiness or personality or whatever. I didn't click at radio. But then as a songwriter, though, things started opening.
Yeah, right. I mean, like thinking back to this time, and even listening, I went as far back as Point of No Return, like listening to stuff. And I knew, like, you lived in New York before that time. And so I can only imagine, like, I guess before moving to LA and then working with Pete Anderson, like on these records and stuff. Yeah. So I think the thing for me is that, you're songwriting, you're doing the thing. You want to be the artist. Like, you want to be this thing in your head, do records, do the thing. And then you get signed, and it kind of feels like the way is made in your imagination. And then, all right, so Point of No Return, something happened. something happened with maybe either the timing, and that's probably what you're referring to at that point of like, was it the timing? Was it they didn't, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the music. Like listening back to it, it's
Right.
like, okay, yeah, this is like a Bakersfield, like big, deep guitar, like with swinging drums kind of thing. Like this is the thing, and this is what he wanted to do. It seems like it matches the time, but somehow it just didn't work. We never know what the other side of the equal sign is, right? But then
Right.
1991 hits. So during the time of like 89 to 91, like you're sitting on, I don't know, a couple of like gold mines of, King of Broken Hearts and When the Sidewalk Ends and tunes like that, right?
Yeah.
To me, in your headspace, it feels like, are you beating yourself up at this point? Like, especially since point of no return just didn't work out. And then you just, what do you go to in your headspace at that point?
Well, I felt like, that first disappointment with the bluegrass record with Roland White, when that didn't come out as I had envisioned and planned, and then when Point of No Return was going to come out, I kind of had, like, I remember having a marketing meeting with a manager at the time, who I was very lucky to have. His name is John Chambotti. And
he's a pretty big guy,
in
right?
LA.
Like not in size.
He had managed Carlene Carter and Karen Brooks, and he had played bass with Clover, which was on Elvis Costello's first album.
Yeah.
And I felt this kinship at that time. When I met him, I was coming off of some of my musical favorites as being Rockpile and Nick Lowe, Dave Edmunds, Elvis Costello. That whole thing, what they were doing musically and their appreciation for certain American artists who I really held high. There was this kinship. And so and then when I was lucky enough, gosh, I just adored and still do Pete Anderson, the great producer and guitar player.
Right, man.
And I remember this marketing meeting, and the head of marketing was saying, it's like, well, now first, we'll put you out on a bus with the band, and we'll do a radio promo tour. As you're, this and that. They had kind of a system for doing things. And then she left the label, and then the guy that signed me with a record deal got transferred, and the remaining folks, the decision makers, just didn't hear it. They just didn't dig it. And so I basically had to wait out several more months after disappointment. Really, no promotion was done, and it was pretty disappointing. And then luckily I got on with Reprise, and John Leventhal and I have been writing the stuff, and John had done this amazing job of doing these demos that sounded like records. He just had an incredible touch and feel and tone. And Rodney Crowell heard it, and he was and is one of my heroes. And so he and John co-produced this record, and it seemed like everything was a go, and they wanted to then at a meeting, at like the first big meeting about the planning meeting, it was brought up that a guy in the LA office really liked this song called Maybe.
I like that song too. Yeah.
And he wanted to test market it as a pop single. And so everybody at the meeting, it was like, well, and why are we here? It's kind of like, well, we're going to delay it, but we're going to have to delay it while the release while we test this. So to make a long story short, and without that delayed the release of the record almost a year. And in the meantime, some other acts were really catching on fire there and doing really well. And I just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Wow.
And it was really disappointing. But in the meantime, I was spending more time in Nashville from LA and just writing a lot, doing a lot of demos, and working with a great publishing company called Blue Water Music. And some songs started getting cut off of the record Planet of Love after it came out and was really doing nothing. I mean, it really, and so the consolation with that was that different songs were getting recorded by George Strait, and it softened that blow of nothing happening with my record.
Yeah, I mean, now in 2020, you can look back and say, oh, it worked out the way it worked out. But at the time, like, this is everything. Like, this is the moment.
Sure. And, well, one good thing that happened was there was a guy named Bob Saporiti, and they had an international department at Warner Brothers, and they did spring for letting me take a band over to Europe, and there were several opportunities, and I got to play the Montreux Jazz Festival out of that like 4 times, and really, I had some really good experiences, and took one tour over there. I took Buddy Miller, who was playing guitar with me at the time. I'd known from New York, and Rusty Wakeman, and Gerth Morlix, and Donald Lindley, and it was just this real tight band. And so there was some. I shouldn't say there was nothing they did, because that was really good. But I didn't get the promo push, And you're right, but you're right. And I don't know how those guys decided, and I'm not bitter towards the decision makers, because it's a business, and they're not that also anybody has all the answers or knows, like what's going to work or not. And I'll out of any of those major record label deals I had, even if they're disappointing, there was something good I got out of it. Either songs I wrote for it or people I got to work with, like Ralph Stanley on a record when I got a record deal on RCA, the last major label thing. And that was really big for me, and having David Grisman be on the last record I did on RCA. And in the meantime, things were really, I had a real fertile period of people recording my songs, and that kept things going, and that always softened that blow, like I was saying, when I'd be disappointed with my own stuff. And there's a wonderful guy who became a great friend, Tim Coates, was engineered a place called Moondog Studios that Gary Talent had the lease for in Nashville. And that was kind of a clubhouse for me, in a place where I would book tons of sessions, and not knowing a lot of times, not being prepared what kind, but I could experiment a lot, and it was great. So it was through all of that stuff, it was very, my output was a lot musically. Right. And then since that time, in order, because I know we might, run out of time a little bit, but if anybody's still awake, but that through these years, it's kind of been a thing of like, he is realizing my favorite it's so important for me and necessary for me to be in a studio going through the process of making a record. And that's kind of when I felt like I was at my best, was when I was doing all this stuff at Moondog Studios with Tim Coates. And then through these last 15 years or so doing stuff independently, but still it's that thing of going in the studio. It's kind of scary in a way. It's exciting in a way. It's but coming up with something, and that whole process, and then just whatever, whether it's a bluegrass record or a edgy country record, traditional country record, something more singer-songwriter, whatever, blues, rock, soul. That really gives me, that's my anchor, is to do that. And I luckily I'm ahead of it game. I've got a soul record that I've still got to write some lyrics for, but all the music's done. I did that at Royal Studios with Luther Dickinson and Boo Mitchell producing it, and a bunch of great guys that used to play with Al Green and also the North Mississippi All-Stars. And so that'll be coming up. And this, up until Christmas, I've got kind of I'm going to make it 2 single records, but I've got albums, but did a whole lot of stuff that will be probably the next full release, whenever that is. And Jay Weaver co-produced that with me, and Jay co-produced his last 2 records I did, Time Flies and From Another World. And I hope sometime I'll get to go back in and do something with Randy Coors, who I really enjoyed doing a bunch of bluegrass records with. He's a real musical genius, I think. Great dobro player and producer. And so there's a lot of stuff. There's some Robert Hunter lyrics I was never able to finish, and that got misplaced and things like that. And there's a whole bunch of musicians in North Carolina. I didn't get to include everybody on this North Carolina themed bluegrass record. So there's a lot of things that as I'm kind of coming out of this shutdown thaw.
Yeah, right.
Thawing out.
Yeah.
There's stuff that, and I guess, so that'll be in the future.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Brandon, this is when Carolina comes home again. Oh boy, I'll tell you what. Now that is, if that don't get you out of the doldrums right now, I don't know what will.
You sold it, Jim. It's all right. You sold it. So I don't want to pass over this too much, because it is.
Well, then don't.
I know. That's why I'm going back.
To.
I just wanted to preface that for you more than anything, that you have, the output is astronomical to me. And I'm sure everybody kind of feels the same way too. But in a way, I kind of felt like I just heard, especially starting in the 90s, that especially just creating more and more, it was kind of self-medication. Because as opposed to, the alternative, beating yourself up to quitting or whatever, you just decided to keep your nose on the grind.
Speaking of self-medicating, let me take a sip of this coffee and I put some mint in. Believe me, there were times where I just wanted to go, oh my gosh, this has been so I'm so disappointed because this or that didn't happen, and I can't get this gig, or this person doesn't want to work with me, and blah, blah, blah. And I learned during my lowest moments, especially like if I would get let go of something, like a record deal or something. And I've said this a lot, and I want to pass that on to other people, is that, or at least this worked with me, but because I know that many of your listeners are probably writers and pickers and singers and as well as listeners. But if you're in that, if that's what you do, but when you go through that disappointment, and when I get at my lowest and just not want to get off there, it's like, look, there's only one, this or that's not going to come along right now and make it all better, and so the only thing I can do is write myself out of this bad place. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's going to change this? The only thing that I can do is to write something that will make a difference somehow. And so it's kind of like a challenge, because, this, and I'm not, I know that this stuff's relative or whatever, but as far as specifically talking about music, surviving the music business, which would be a great title for, you've already come up with it. But in order to survive, you've got to do something on your own that changes things. And yes, we do get lucky breaks sometimes. And sometimes I've definitely found myself saying, it's like, dang, I just need a break. And it wasn't happening. And then, but it's really up to you to have the goods so that it does happen, because those things. So, I'm not trying to be simplistic or overly philosophical about that, but that's just some advice I've got for people, because it's, and in some ways in our business now too, in the music business, we just don't know. I really, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Next, it's like I say, unfortunately, and maybe a realistic timeline is maybe after January, then things will slowly, I remember talking to somebody at first, like, well, let's say this thing drags on for 2 months, then let's say that it's going to be, it might be 3 months before I get to do a gig again.
Right.
It could be a year. We just don't know. I'm not saying that to be gloomy or anything, but we just don't know. This is so incredibly harrowing for us for humanity.
Yeah.
And just the survivalists, we'll just see that. We just have to hope, but at the same time, brace ourselves for what we're going to see and experience with friends and loved ones, and our communities and our neighboring countries. It's just so, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, on that note, zippity-doo-dah.
See, we call that a comeback in comedy. You're doing it. You're doing it. even watching the movie King of Broken Hearts to like hearing like your interviews and stuff that you've done in the past, like if there's anybody that knows anything like about change and like you just don't know what happens, I feel like you're the king of change. Like you just know.
Now calm now. You're being too kind.
Like you just have. I feel like over time you would have to learn this, but you're also friends with Buddy Miller too, which that's a relationship that's, I don't know, since the New York days. I've heard in interviews that you've done.
1980. Yeah, he is definitely one of the most important people in my life. I'm really, really lucky to have, met him 40 years ago. Gosh, it's hard to believe.
I love Buddy and Jim.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm glad to have been a part of it. Now, that was, Buddy is such an incredible producer, guitar player, singer, writer, so I was glad to be along for the ride on that.
Yeah, well, don't feel that way, Jim. I mean, you kind of do this too every once in a while. Like the couple times I hung out with you and through the course of conversation, and I do this too. I think it's a trademark we have with a certain mentality that we have, that a little bit of self-deprecating humor. But Jim, you realize like you're a badass, right? Like you can say, like you can definitely write a song and you've done these things, but even a little bit of despair. I have that little bit of despair too. I want to make people feel good, but I have this. I have a little bit of despair and darkness, and I kind of misery loves company kind of guy. Like I'd rather write a sad song, but then again, I want to try and make you laugh at the same time.
Right.
I feel like that's a personality or trait that you kind of have too as well.
Well, it's nothing. It is real. Well, what was I going to say? Something about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jim.
You're going to spin out of the question, or at least the comment I had, and you're going to go somewhere else, and that's fine.
Right. No. But, one thing with my life and music and stuff like that is that I guess because it has not ever been the, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that I still feel like I'm not there yet. Accomplishing what I want to accomplish musically, even not commercially or successfully. But that's the thing about music is there's just so much more. There's always something more to learn or discover, some new place to go.
Yeah. There's a beauty to that. Like you still have like so much music in you to share. But then I feel like there's like this layer of, well, I haven't hit the mark exactly where I want to be.
I think maybe it's a thing inside me of just trying to be better. To try to and there's a level of like musical accomplishment or something that there's just I'm not there, So it's still a process. There's more to do. There's more to to create.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And folks, thanks for listening. And let's talk again.
Yeah. Oh, you think people are listening? No, it was just us. This is just for me. I don't.
Well, let's start over. Let's start. If you're going to record.
So I just hit record right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I was born in a small town.
This was all pre-interview. I don't know what you've been thinking. So no, I'm going to cut you loose. We definitely got to do this again because I definitely want to know more Headspace. But that we'll wait for the next record. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fair, and I hope that'll be sooner than later.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate you having me, Brandon. And folks, thanks again for listening.
I speak in hyperbole all the time. It was really a great conversation. I love Jim. We're just going to do it again at some other time. Jim Lauderdale, be sure to give him a follow at Jim Lauderdale Music on all his socials. And of course, go to jimlauderdalestore.com for everything. The guy has 30 plus records out there in the webs. Okay, he's got music, he's got the movie, The King of Broken Hearts. Should go check it out. What else are you going to do during this Rona time? You're working from home. I know what you do at home. You're quote unquote working, but you're watching something. I know what you're doing. You're not really working. The record is out when Carolina comes home again, so be sure to go listen to that as well. Is that everything from Jim? I think so. Hey folks, give us a follow at SMI Podcast or at Unofficial Brandon, kind of whatever your flavor is. Instagram, TikTok, it's at Unofficial Brandon. Everything else at SMI Podcast. Also, while you're at it, go check out americansongwriter.com/podcast. Check out everybody else. We just joined that awesome network, so they're just getting the word out. Go check it. If you enjoyed this episode, all I ever ask is that you share it with a friend. It just touched your little heartstrings and it just tugged away on them. I don't know, maybe there's something there, wisdom nuggets, or from just the little drops of interesting points. I don't know what kind of gravitates toward your little eardrum muscles. Just share it with a friend. That's all I ever ask. All right, folks, that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all that podcast shiz, and I'll see you on the other side. Be kind, be nice, love one another, and always happy surviving out there.